Remember that $320 million pier that the Biden administration had built off the coast of Gaza in order to deliver supplies? Well, that's not going to be used because it is adrift, and reports of parts of it sinking have consumed social media over the weekend. This is a debacle, and we are just reacting to it now. So this footage, which they can see, viewers can see up on screen, is wild. What a boondoggle to spend, again, $320 million to deliver aid to the victims of the war in Gaza. And look at it. I mean, what a disaster, what a waste of money, what a PR disaster. This is going to just, we can't do, I mean, the Biden administration can't do anything right. Look at that.
I mean, it was when it was announced.
It'd be hilarious if it was like on a TV show or something.
Yeah, but it was perceived as almost initially as a boondoggle, right? Because remember the conceit of building this thing in the first place. Despite there being, 8 to 10 different entrances, different gates into Gaza, most of which are between the border of Israel and Gaza, through which hundreds of trucks used to enter on a daily basis prior to October 7th. The conceit is that for some reason Israel is no longer able to get these aid trucks into Gaza, and that to get around some indescribable obstacle to the aid getting in the way that the aid has been getting in for decades, all of a sudden America needs to commit $320 million in a floating pier, which is going to frustrate those efforts enormously. Even as it was being constructed, people were pointing out how much more difficult it is to transport goods by water, how much more difficult it is and how much more costly it is than simply driving trucks loaded with food across the border. And it begs the question, why did America need to do this if Israel is our ally and they control all of these entry points into Gaza? Now, of course, Israel put forward a number of excuses as to why aid could not flow across, or alternatively it said, well, aid is going across, and it would point to a number of trucks that did enter Gaza, even though it was a drip compared to what was going in prior to October 7th. We witnessed on this show video of Israeli civilians taking objects, taking supplies off of aid trucks and throwing them into the road without any intervention from the IDF, which does seem, again, to be a kind of complicity with the Israeli government. But we're told Israel is our ally. We're working alongside them to deliver humanitarian aid. These are our
allies, making it impossible for us to fulfill an objective that our government says is important. And so we spent an extra $320 million to build this, and now we can't even use it because of incompetence.
And by the way,
and why are they making, again, they're our ally. Why, if we, and I'm not even, I would disinvest from all sides of this conflict if possible. I hate paying to blow things up and then rebuild them, which seems to be the American government's preference for how to do business everywhere and always. These stupid, like, make work projects. It's bad economic thinking. It's a disaster.
And by the way, 3 American soldiers were injured in the construction of this useless pier, which I cannot stress enough.
Glad they weren't blown up.
is literally, and that was a concern as well.
That seems like we got away easy.
And that was a concern as well, precisely because there have now been these 8 instances in which humanitarian aid organizations have coordinated with the Israeli government and subsequently found themselves attacked and killed by the IDF, despite telling the IDF who they were and where they're going to be. Most famously, these World Central Kitchen workers, which included an American citizen with a young child who was killed. Now, I do think this is a turning point of sorts. The fact of the humanitarian aid being obstructed in this way, and I think the boondoggle of this peer effort, have influenced people who up until this point have defended Israel's right to defend itself and to conduct the siege in Gaza as it would like, and caused them to frankly change their position on this issue. Now, over the weekend, there was a pretty viral clip that went around where Fareed Zakaria at CNN interviewed Arya Nair. Now, he is described as a giant in the world of humanitarian rights. He himself is a survivor of the Holocaust and later became a co-founder of Human Rights Watch. And in a, again, really viral interview, he explains exactly that it is the humanitarian issue, the humanitarian aid distribution issue, and how food is being weaponized as a tool of war that has caused him to change his mind on whether or not what is going on in Gaza is in fact a genocide. Let's take a look at some of that.
When the South African case charging genocide was initially brought, I was not one of those who endorsed South Africa's argument of genocide. I didn't endorse it because I thought Israel had a right to retaliate against Hamas, and I thought Israel had a right to try to incapacitate Hamas so that it would never be able to do anything like that again. But I was disturbed by some of the actions of Israel, by the use of very large weapons, 2,000-pound bombs, which are utterly inappropriate in a crowded urban area. A bomb like that can kill somebody 2 football fields away, and using bombs like that was inappropriate in the context of Gaza. But still, I didn't think that Israel was engaged in genocide just because of the effort to retaliate against Hamas, even though I thought Israel went far overboard in the way of its retaliation.
So what changed your mind then?
What changed my mind was that over a period of time, Israel has obstructed the delivery of humanitarian assistance to Gaza. And those who have been most severely victimized are not the members of Hamas. Men with guns ordinarily find a way to get food and to get fed. But it is young children who are most severely damaged by malnutrition and who will either starve to death, or if they survive, they will be diminished for the rest of their lives, diminished physically and psychologically by the severe malnutrition they are enduring as children. And I thought that severe obstruction of the delivery of humanitarian assistance amounted to genocide.
Yeah, that's pretty big news. That's a lengthy interview on a mainstream program with a very respected person who is himself a Holocaust survivor, explaining why even he, someone who says he's only called one instance of genocide in his entire career, now believes genocide is an appropriate word to describe what's going on in Gaza.
Well, I've called for the U.S. to be less involved in the Middle East on either side of the conflict, having constructed a $320 million pier because our ostensible allies won't allow us to deliver aid we said was important to deliver, and then constructing this and having it sink is the opposite of being less involved in the Middle East.
Yeah, I cannot wait to hear what the White House spokespeople and State Department spokespeople have to say about all of these events. We're still waiting.
And I can't wait to see more mainstream media coverage of this. I am seeing some people, because both sides of this conflict think this was a tremendous waste of money. Even very kind of pro-Israel voices are complaining about this having been done. And I saw some conservatives saying, you know, where is the New York Times? Because this is going to make Biden look bad. And, you know, the New York Times is constantly being accused by the Biden people of being unfairly critical of Biden. No Times coverage yet, although some other people are starting to chime in. So we shall see. There should be hearings on this one. More Rising right after this.